Okay, today I received an HP Spectre x360. It's a 13-AC041TU, and it doesn't turn on at all. So it looks normal, but when you press the power button, nothing happens. So there's no light at all. So I'll try plugging it in. See if there's a light on here. There's nothing. There's no light on this side either. Still no light. Okay, so it's just not working at all. So the first step is I need to take the back off. So undo these screws. If you've got feet, take the feet off, and there's 2 screws underneath. Take out these ones and take out these ones. Now you probably need a Torx screwdriver for this. It's normally a T5 or a T6. And then once you've got that off, you just get a prying tool, and you need to go in here. I normally start at the hinge or around this area. Sometimes it can be quite tight to remove, but this one is a little bit bent, so it was easier to get off. So once you lift it off, it just kind of pops out like this. The battery goes in here. I've taken this battery out already. So sometimes when you start a laptop with the battery plugged in, the power will go in and then through the battery and then to the equipment, and in other models it just goes straight to the equipment, so you can't really tell from looking at it. The first test I would do is check the power works, see if the light comes on. The light will only come on if the battery is connected, so I need to reconnect this before we do that test. If the power doesn't work, there's no signs from the outside, then go inside, check if the battery has any power, and also check with the power connector if you can receive any voltage on the other side, because sometimes it's the power connector itself. So in this model, this little board can be a problem, and replacing this board might fix the problem. If it's not this, then it'll be replace the whole motherboard. So I'll test the battery first. If the battery looks fine, I'll test if the power coming in reaches the battery to test that it's charging. And then we'll know if the charger works, if the battery works, and if the power button works. So undo these 2 and these 2. So the battery screws are all the same type. So take the battery out. So on a battery you've got black and you've got red. The other colours will do something different. So if you just connect the multimeter, put it on DC, find a black one and find a red one. So the battery is flat. So if I plug in with the power, and then on here, if the battery's sitting this way, the first 3 pins are black, and then the 4th pin is red. So if I test the first pin and the 4th one, or very low, so 0.02. That doesn't seem right. It should be much higher than that. So it could be that it's a motherboard problem. So what I'll do is just see if there's any temperature difference over the board. everything's 26. So it's suggesting that nothing's receiving power. So the cheapest fix that we can do, if the battery doesn't work, you can swap the battery, but if there's no voltage coming into here, then swapping the battery won't fix it. There's kind of two possibilities with this board. It'll either be the power switch is broken, or something on the motherboard is broken. If it's a power switch, you can just buy this circuit board, and it costs about $25, up to about $60 depending on where you get it from. It will include this cable, so sometimes just reseating this will fix it. So take out this screw, undo the latch, and this is the power button. So when you press the power button on the outside, you're pressing this part. This part number, so if you can't see it on the board, it's usually under the sticker. So remove this black part, and then sometimes underneath it will also have some other details like revision. That may or may not be important, but I just take a photo just in case. So sometimes this cable fails, and sometimes it's the power switch. So just undo this, pull it out, check the connectors are okay. There's no corrosion, it looks normal. Check at this end as well. It's all shiny, looks normal. It's very hard to tell if this is the problem, but it's probably worth swapping it just in case. So when you put it back in, it's got a line, and you just align it with the edge of the lock. The power button itself is just a flimsy bit of plastic that flexes. This is the part that you're actually pressing. So just check that it's lined up the right way. Just check it's in the socket first, and then put the circuit board back in. So usually if there's no battery attached, you can still plug this in, turn it on, and the fans will at least start to spin, but there's nothing happening at all on this one. So the next step is to figure out what the motherboard is that's in this model. If you know what the specs were before, then it makes it much easier to find, but if you don't know what the specs are, then we'll need to take it out. Basically all the black screws and all the silver screws. So here, this one, the fan, that one, and then there'll be a few clips around here that you need to pull out as well. Sometimes if it doesn't start up at all, you can remove the CMOS battery, which is this one. I would also check if the voltage of that is normal. So red on the left. It doesn't actually matter which way you do it, it will just reverse the voltage when you read it. Okay, so 2.95 volts. It's meant to be about 3 volts, that's not too bad. So just lift it up to take it out. And then I'll just unplug this one. So this has got a latch, you just lift it up, it comes out. This one you lift it up, it comes out. This is the display. This is the power button. This is the speaker. This is the fan. Okay, so that just clips out. This is the trackpad, so just lift that up. This one is the keyboard. This will be the backlight. This one is the speaker. Then up the top you've got another fan port, Wi-Fi, and I'm not sure what that one is. So before I do anything, I'll take a photo of what the board looks like, so I know where the screws go. Now if you can't get them out, just try a flatter screwdriver, because sometimes the screws are not very deep, and so it makes them much harder to get out. Okay. Right, to get the fan out, you need to pull these two screws out, and then take this out and lift it up. Comes out here. Alright, we'll just undo that screw as well. There's another screw here. Okay, so with the Wi-Fi card, you may have to take this screw out. On some boards you have to take it out, some boards you don't. These are quite hard to put back on, so I'll try and leave them attached when I can. It might be easier if you had small fingers. Okay, there's another screw under here. I need to take this out so that we can lift the board out. Right, so some of these are still attached. We don't need to take the whole thing out, but it tells you here what the model of the motherboard is. So it's a DAX31MB1AA0 revision A. So this is the camera, which is this thin cable. The next one is the fan, and then this one is whatever this black thing is that I don't know what it is. Okay, so that's the motherboard. There's nothing particularly wrong with this from the looks of it, but often there'll be a fault that you can't see visibly. Sometimes these components will have like burn marks on them, but that just looks pretty normal to me. The RAM is under here, and the processor is under here. So this is the heat pipe, and that's the cooling, like the heatsink, and so then the fan blows the air out here, which cools that down, and this is full of liquid. So the liquid basically goes from being a vapor state to liquid state, back and forth. On this side, the RAM is soldered. It's got little clips around the outside that hold it together. Each one of these is 4 gigs, so this is the 16 gig model. It says model X31. Even though that's the model, this is the detail that you need. So I'll just take a picture of the shape of the board looks like as well, because sometimes the models are very similar and you don't know what aspect is important until you go looking for a spare part. This one also goes into here. So it could be that this chip itself is faulty. You can buy one of these chips that's like less than $20, but they're not easy to remove unless you've got specialised equipment. So often you just have to replace the whole board. The board is anywhere from kind of 300 up to 800 depending on where you buy it from, and that's Australian dollars. So it might just be that we just have to get another board. But I'll order a new power circuit board first, in case it's something easy, and if that doesn't fix it, then I'll get a new motherboard. Even though I have to take this out again later, I usually just put it all back together so that next time when I come back to it in a few weeks' time, I remember where everything goes. Put in the corner bit first, because that's going to be tricky, so it's going to go underneath the Wi-Fi card. But it's this corner that you need to get in first. And check this display cables out, and this one, and then you've got a whole lot of ribbon cables here that we need to make sure go on the top as well. And so just line up with these screw holes. And before you screw it in, just put the Wi-Fi card back in. Then put in the fan connector. All of these connectors only fit one way, so if it doesn't go in first time, it's probably upside down. This is the camera. So this is a rear speaker. It seems to have 4 speakers, which is pretty good. Then put in the speaker here, pins face upwards. CMOS battery. Then put in like the ribbon cables. There's like a line across them. You need to lift the latch up, put this in. It needs to go flat. Okay, so once that's in and the line's level with the end of the slot, you just put it down and it's latched in. And it's the same for all of these ones. So they've got it like a big line or a small line. This one is that one in here. Go and put the fan back in. So when you put the fan in, it's got like a gap, and you need to kind of fit it on this end first. And then put in the connector. Okay. I'll put in the screws for the fan as well. Now we need to put this black thing in first, which is a speaker as well. The speaker plugs in on the top. Then you put this part in, which is our headphone jack and USB port. So that has to kind of go under first. And then you hold it in place and put in this latch. Okay, I'll put in the screw as well. Now that everything's in, we can put in the screws for the motherboard and then just the display cable. Okay, so that's back together. This part here, it's like a heat spreader for the RAM and also just to protect it. So to put this back on, we need to line it up with these clips, and each one is like a clip that the middle bit goes in between and it will just click in around the outside. So if you can get in this end and this corner, the other ones should be easy to line up. Okay, that's in. Then just put the battery back in. So I'll test it at this end now. It definitely looks like it's a motherboard problem, but I think I will just replace both parts just in case. So reports online say it's usually this or the motherboard. If you're not sure, you can have a look on YouTube and just do a search for the model number. And then if you search for like disassembly or troubleshooting, you can find guides on how that's going to work. Now to find a part that matches what we want, you can try on eBay, on Amazon, or on AliExpress. If you go to Amazon, sometimes you'll get next day delivery, sometimes you won't. eBay, the lead time is usually 1 to 2 weeks. In AliExpress, it's normally like 2 to 3 weeks. In terms of price, AliExpress will usually give you the best price, but sometimes eBay or Amazon are quite similar. So you just have to weigh up what's the most cost effective. The price of motherboards for this model were about $300 from AliExpress. They're about $350 to $400 on eBay, and on Amazon they're kind of like $500. So this particular one is a i7 16 gig, just because I've looked up the model number already. So when you order it, you need to make sure that you get the right one. If you got the 8 gig version, it would still work, but you can't upgrade it because the RAM is soldered. So if you wanted to make it the faster one in the future, you'd have to buy a new motherboard. It's a 7th generation Intel. So I'll just put this back together. And then you put in the screws.